Hello, I'm Lily Swanbrow back here with ASAP, and we are going to be doing a short webinar today to recap the member-led interest group formation process. We held a live webinar with members last week, and this is for anybody and everyone who wasn't able to join us. We're currently in the midst of 2020 member group formation, and so this is going to be about 15 minutes, and I just want to share a little bit about the process, why we're doing it, what's involved, and what steps you need to take. And then happy, as are all ASAP staff, to answer any questions that you have one-on-one. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. These are some slides that we prepared for last week's live webinar that will hopefully give you a little bit more information about the process. Okay, so today, and it's going to be a little bit different since we're not in the live portion again with members who would be doing breakout groups and talking to each other. But we're going to talk about what were the topics that were submitted so far for 2020 to give you an idea of what's on the table. We're going to do a quick overview of interest groups and what they're all about, as well as talk about the formation process and timeline and the actual application, which is going to be the next step and what's involved in that. So before we get into further detail, these are the 2020 member-led interest group topics that were submitted. So we had just over 20 ideas submitted, not including current groups that might be seeking renewal. And it really spans quite a wide scope of adaptation topical areas. So a lot of interesting and exciting ideas on the table, from policy to public health to natural resource focused adaptation. And now it's just a matter of seeing what applications we get in and what the members want to vote on. So ignore this slide. We're not going to be doing breakout rooms for this recorded webinar. But first, before we get into the process, just to kind of circle back in case you are a new member or maybe haven't been involved in 2019 member groups. ASAP member-led interest groups are what I think of as really the heart of the ASAP network. So they are virtual member-led groups that are based on a shared area or topic of interest. So whereas some of our groups are kind of based on region or maybe where you're located, these are groups that any member can participate in, and members have the opportunity to connect, collaborate, form partnerships. They can take many different forms. They can take the form of simply sharing information in kind of a traditional webinar, presentation, and discussion format, or they can really become working groups that are more product and output oriented. And that is all up to the members and to the idea. So ASAP last year launched a process to form member-led interest groups on an annual basis. And this year is going to be the second iteration of that. And the reason that ASAP did this, well, there are a few reasons. First, really to make sure that the process was as democratic and transparent as possible so that members all have an equal say in what areas of interest ASAP forms groups around and how those groups are chosen and how they're supported by staff. ASAP also recognized that groups require quite a large lift to maintain and support, both from the leaders that are the members that are leading and guiding these groups, and from ASAP staff who provide administrative and facilitative support for these groups. So realizing that there's limited capacity to take on groups and we don't want to overextend and stress the network as well as our staff capacity, we count the number of groups at about 5 in terms of what we're able to support and really consistently provide the depth and level of support that groups need to be successful. And so creating this process that allows all members to suggest ideas and then develop applications around them, and then open it up for a simple vote. Let members vote on the groups that they want to participate in, and then choosing these groups on an annual basis so that if a group's not chosen one year, there's a chance to do it again, is something that we created to help address all of these factors. So again, this is going to be the second time we do this. And the process has 4 phases. So first, there was topic submission, and that's done. That ended in mid-October. And that was just a simple form you may have seen, submit a topic, what is just a phrase or a word that you're interested in around adaptation. And if you didn't do this, rest assured, it's okay. You can still participate. this was not required in the sense of if you didn't submit a topic, you cannot go on to phase 2. It was more of a step to really help get the process going, get the ideas on the table. If you didn't submit a topic, maybe somebody else submitted one that you are interested in, would like to partner or join with that person or group to develop an application. So you're welcome to go straight to phase 2. We just do phase 1 first so that members can start to form groups, get to know the ideas, and connect with each other in that way. So right now we are in the middle of phase 2, or more in the early part of phase 2, application preparation and development for topics that were submitted or new topics, including groups that are current groups that we'll be trying to renew. And so that is ongoing through November 20th when applications are due. They're due to me by email, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's involved in the application next. It's very simple. And then phase 3 is member voting. So right after Thanksgiving, we're going to open up voting, and that's going to be open through December 20th. So we'll be doing a lot of communications about this. You'll get to see the applications, vote on all of the groups in a ranked voting system. And then we'll be planning to announce the new groups right after the first of the year with orientation in 2020. We are hoping to get the groups up and running a little bit earlier in 2020 than we did in 2019. And just to pause for a minute before I continue to talk about group renewal, since that's a question that a lot of people have, the way we're running that this year, and again, this is only year 2, so it might be an evolving system, is current member-led interest groups, the 2019 groups, are guaranteed to be supported by ASAP staff for a full year. So most of those groups started in March, so they will be running through March of 2020, regardless of whether they renew or not. If they want to renew, they essentially follow the same process as new group ideas. So leaders or leadership teams simply submit an application. If they're not changing things up at all, it could be the same application they submitted last year. And then they are up for open to be voted on, just like new ideas. So we're going to see how that works. We're trying to find the right balance of, again, being very democratic and fair, but also giving space to new ideas. And another aside that I want to mention for both current groups that might be renewing or new ideas is that we are always open to helping a group self-organize if not voted in to be an official ASAP member-led interest group. So if a group maybe really wants to meet and convene, maybe it's an old group that is kind of moving on to the next phase, or it's already really well established, so they don't need so much support, or maybe it's a new idea that a few members are just really passionate about, we can provide some base level support of helping that group find members, get organized, and then continue to meet and convene on their own. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit more about the application components. This is information that I'm happy to give out again, share over email. Really, the application doesn't need to be anything super complicated. It's simply a 1 to 2 page document, can be a Word document, can be a PDF. Email to me. My email address is right here, also on our website if you don't have it, by close of business on November 20th. And the application has 6 simple components. First, just a contact person. That's likely the main person putting together the application. If there are 2 people really working equally as partners, or a few people, it can be more than 1 person, but we're looking for that primary contact person who may or may not end up being the leader of the group. Then 2, the group purpose. So what is this group hoping to accomplish? And that again can kind of get at maybe moving a little bit into the structure, but what is the group, what are the goals and objectives, and that may impact the form the group takes. So is this a traditional learning platform, sharing information, networking, or is this going to be more of a working group where the purpose is really more output oriented? So that's something to think about, and then that kind of leads into then how is this group structured? What are the meetings? Is it going to be monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, more frequent? What is the size of the group going to be like? Is it going to be an open group that's open the entire year, or more of a closed cohort? Thinking about how the group can be structured to best speak to whatever the purpose is. And then the specific meeting structure. So what form are the meetings going to take? How often? all of that, and then leading into the outcomes of the group. So is the group just intended to be something where people learn a little bit more about a topic and make connections, or is there maybe a more specific outcome? Or maybe it's really lifting up an issue and adaptation that needs some more attention. And then number 6, the proposed leaders. So with all of these components of the application, nothing is required. If you don't know something, they can be very brief, they can be general, or these sections can be blank. But the more information and the more developed an application can be, the better chance that members are going to have the information that they need to vote on this group. So again, preparing an application, you're trying to share as much as possible so that you can get that buy-in and support for an idea that you're really hoping to move forward. With that said, I'm happy to answer questions and correspond with any of you one-on-one about the application. I'm also going to be sharing some previous applications once I get permission from current group leaders so that you can see an example of what was done last year, in case that's helpful. And, you know, really just in general, hoping to provide as much support as possible. I'm going to skip back. We're not talking specifically about breakouts, but I'm actually going to go back to the slide. I just want to put the topics up again. So again, here are the topics that were submitted for 2020. And regarding specifically, you know, what role ASAP staff can play in supporting application development, we're happy to help connect you. So if you see an idea here, now that you've heard a little bit about how the process works, maybe you didn't submit it, but maybe you're really interested in taking more of a leadership role with the group this year. If you see an idea that was submitted that you would like to be involved in, please reach out and we can help connect you with other members and help kind of put some of those pieces together to support you moving forward with a great application. Okay, so that is all the content that I had to share today. Thanks so much for joining and listening in. And again, very happy to answer questions and correspond one-on-one, as I know other ASAP staff are as well. So good luck with your application, and we can't wait to see what comes forward with 2020 groups.